The battle for the mind of North America will be fought in the video arena.
Hello, PJ. I think you're muted. I'm just gonna unmute you.
There we
oh,
are. There we are. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now okay. Now it's working.
You know?
Yeah, the joys of technology. Hey.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for coming on,
Awesome, man.
guys.
Welcome into my car.
Yeah, into your car, and now I'm with my new studio now. So I haven't. I mean, I was doing a lot of recorded content for the last couple of months, but now I'm back to the old habits of doing lives by myself with some new equipment as well. So thanks for coming, and Max here. And I doing a series of interviews right now as I start a new project called the Miracle of the West. And part of the challenge, what we're trying to do is to interview people who are working towards Alberta independence. So thanks for tuning in, and it's glad to see you guys back. And my real habits of doing lives online, which is excellent. And today I have the pleasure to interview PJ DeBelt. He has a YouTube channel, and how many subscribers you have? Like 40,000. That's what you mentioned later on, right?
Uh, I, yeah, I think he just surpassed 40,000 yesterday. Last night,
40,000.
sometime. Appreciate
40,000.
everyone who subscribed.
Yeah, that's good. The last time I checked, you had 38,000, I believe. Now it's got to 40,000, which is good to see. So
Yeah, man,
basically,
that's a heck of a lot more than my wife thought I was gonna get.
oh, really? Yeah, but sometimes we start little
Yeah,
channels. Like when I start Freedom Channel, like the social media accounts, I only have one viewer, and then I just surpassed the 1,100 views like about a few days ago. So that's good.
I
That's
saw
good
that,
to know.
man. Yeah,
Yeah. So I'm gonna see if there are
you should have a lot more, man. It's gonna keep going up.
Yeah, absolutely. And exactly. So one of the things I just realized is that when I do little clips from videos, that actually makes social media exposed right away. So that's kind of cool at the same time, which is awesome. So let's go to the meat and potatoes here. I just want to see who is PJ, what you do, or
Yeah, man.
what is PJ. Who am I talking to? Who is the front person in front of me? Like who is PJ, and how things going, and how you started to social media accounts, that sort of thing.
Well, for one, I am not a secret agent of the U.S. government or anything like that. Just kidding. Yeah, man, I'm just an Albertan by choice. I'm an immigrant. Migrated here. Some people match onto the accent, whatever accent there is there. I migrated here over a decade ago from a small island in the Caribbean called Dominican Republic,
Yep.
mostly Christian country, Catholic. My wife is from here, born and raised, Albertan. My children are all from here, all born here. Got a bunch of kids. Um, I've been a conservative from the moment I arrived in Canada. I've been a conservative since before I came to Canada. I come from, like I said, a mostly conservative Christian country, and conservative values were instilled in me from the moment I was a kid. I'm a Christian. Um, and coming into Canada near the tail end of Stephen Harper's tenure, Canada was a pretty solid
Hmm.
country, man. It was,
Yep.
it had a lot. Obviously, it wasn't perfect, but it was doing well. It was respected around the world. It was
Yep.
mostly a boring country, and I mean it in the best sense possible, in the sense that there weren't any scandals or nearly as many as there were during the Trudeau era. There wasn't the amount of ethics breaches and all that stuff. Anyways, long story short, always been a conservative, but I realized that Alberta has been getting a raw deal in the past. It came to my attention during the Wexit movement in 2019 that Alberta was being mistreated. I didn't have all the
Yep.
facts. I didn't have as much information as I have now. And then seeing what happened, how Canadians, the rest of Canada especially, decided to give the same people who have basically destroyed this country over the past decade,
Hmm.
especially, they decided to give them another term. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of Albertans, and I'm no exception. We just realized that the rest of Canada is just completely different politically, culturally, mentally speaking. It's just, yeah, the whole elbows up thing. So
Elbows up.
I used to rant to my wife a whole lot. I ranted to my wife a whole lot about it and letting her know. And she's like, you know more things about Alberta and its history than I do. You should probably start talking about it. She basically was tired of hearing about it from me. So she basically was like, you need another outlet. I'm kind of tired of hearing the politics. And so
Yep.
I just started a channel, man, and I just started talking about the things I believed in, gathering more facts and expressing them and explaining them as I got them. And that's kind of how PJ the Bell started, man. And people started listening, and just awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of out of how channels just started. It's just by saying like, okay, I'm just gonna start a channel because XYZ, because I was like, oh, okay, I was compelled to do so, right? So you fail, so you think that you
Mhm.
were compelled to do so, and your wife kind of motivate into doing things, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long
Yeah.
you been doing this?
I started either, yeah, I think between mid and late March. The whole federal campaign was going on. I,
Mm.
like most Albertans, was hoping Pierre Poilievre was going to win, although I had a whole lot of questions about Pierre, whether he was truly a conservative. But I figured, you know what, anything will be better than the liberals. So I was supporting
Yeah,
Pierre, hoping that he would win. Like, again, most Albertans. When I went to some of his rallies, there were so many people from this province that were like,
they were
if this
massive
guy
too,
doesn't
right?
win, the independence movement is going to. Yeah, man.
Explode.
If this guy doesn't win, people were saying that was the majority of people. If this guy doesn't win, this all hell is gonna break loose, and the independence movement is gonna go insane. And he has.
Yeah, and it has
There
been
are,
insane.
like, the people who know. Yeah, man. The people in the know about Alberta independence. I'm talking people like Dr. Michael Wagner, Keith Wilson, Dr. Dennis Modry, Mitch Sylvester. They've all said it that they've never seen the independence movement have this much momentum, which is great to see. This province deserves to be independent.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a matter of fact, because I look at the stats figure here. I remember when I the day after the election, because I live streamed the election results for at the federal level. 2 days,
Yep.
the day
Yeah,
after, I
man.
sent a whole bunch of emails to a bunch of people, especially with APP, and there was, and we arranged
Yep.
a meeting, a pod in on StreamYard. I launched like a podcast. I was with Kerry Lambert from APP, Benina Peterson, Jamil Giovanni. He is the interim leader of the Wild Rose Independence Party. A whole bunch of other things.
Hmm.
James Sorey was there as well, and myself. We were six on the stream, and Dennis Modi was there too. We're about six on the stream, and that stream only generated around, at the same time, we have over 700 people watching simultaneously. So it was a hot topic
Wow.
at that moment. People were very mad about the situation, and in fact, Dennis Modi, during the speeches, he was asking in first ask, he was asking, "Hey, are you satisfied with the results of the federal election?" And I was the one raising the hand. And he said, "Well, I know he was thinking, because that's going to push the independence movement to the roof. So I kind of understand what you're
Yeah.
going through." And so basically, your channel really started to grow during that election period, like from March, April type of thing, right?
I would say, well, it depends on what you mean by really started to grow, because before before the election, or on the lead up to it, I would say the first week, if I recall correctly. I have a really bad memory, but I think I had no more than 1,000 subscribers. But
Mm-hmm.
then the independence movement, I that was all I talked about, and that's all I still talk about. Like ninety
Yep.
percent of everything I talk about, because this is what I believe in, man. Like, uh, whenever I have time when I'm not working, because I have a day job, paying the bills for the
Same.
family. This is all I talk about, because this is what I want to. This is what I want to advance. I want to tell the story of why I got to the conclusion that the best solution for Alberta is to become sovereign and fully independent from Canada. The things that I wish I'd known when I was putting all my hopes in the Conservative Party of Canada, which is
Mhm.
more like liberal light. It's not really conservative, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah. And basically, that's another thing, because now I'm starting to see over time that the players are revealing their faces now. I'm not looking necessarily at what's
Yep.
happening in the Red Deer area with the federal by-election over there, but it seems that the the reactions are very diverse, and they're very for independence, right? And obviously, Pierre Poilievre is a federalist, right?
Oh yeah.
He's running for the federal
Yeah, he won't even.
conservative party of country,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of expected to see
Yeah,
that,
man. And the thing is,
and they parachute somebody there, which is
so you
Polyver,
go ahead.
right?
Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, they parachute
Yep.
Polyver
Yep.
into the mix, kind of hoping that he will win the election, which I think he will. But the point of the
Mm-hmm.
matter is that he will probably win by 60% of the vote. No, he will not get more than 80%, 85% like the previous candidate. And that's going to be my expectation, and that kind of reflects this sort of elbows up mentality, kind of first sentiment I always seen in other town hall meetings as well too, in the area as well too. And so yeah, that's very interesting to see that after the election, that there's like a shift that's happening in the province on every
Oh yeah.
aspect. I talked to multiple people in my interaction. They basically said after the April 2028, that was my last straw. That's the moment I decided to snap and move things ahead for the better, I guess. And that's gonna a lot of people in my
Mm-hmm.
generation are like this as well too. So basically you're get involved so from April, that's where you started to do actual videos. Like that's where everything started, but you've been doing that for a while too, right? So, and you will
Yeah.
have you always been, let's say, so you mentioned that for the independence movement, you only were waiting until you get enough information to make a clear decision. Like for one of us, when I moved here to Canada, when I moved here to Alberta 3 years ago, I wasn't very keen to the idea of independence after, and I think the probably is for you
Yeah.
as well too. I think that once you start to realize the facts, when you start to realize the history and how we were in Alberta, how Alberta people were treated throughout the decades, actually, that's where you start to realize. I know that's happened for you, it's happened to me, but after we saw the
Yeah.
history of independence, that where people shifted sides. Is something that happened to you as well too?
Yeah, man. For me, it was something that's done the most to make me get to the conclusion that I've gotten to has been the historical context,
Yeah.
because the the numbers, the financial context it's an obvious one. It's in your face. Alberta would
Yeah.
factually, like, no one's arguing this. Even the biggest opponents of Alberta independence can't argue that Alberta would be much better financially than if it separated, if it became its own independent country, than if it
Hmm.
stayed within Canada. No one
Yeah.
argues that. They can't. They know they can't. Financially, they can't. Except for some wacko, most people understand that Alberta would absolutely be better off financially in becoming independent. What did it for me, what definitely was like, whoa, because of course, in countries around the world, there's going to be regional differences, cultural differences between regions, right? And it's only fair union, which is what Canada claims to be, a federal union, similar to the United States, really in name only. Um, there are going to be jurisdictions that produce less economically than others. It's just how it is.
Hmm.
You take Texas. Texas is always going to produce more than Vermont. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, the population, the natural resources, it's just a fact of the matter. So I wouldn't mind Alberta helping the country financially and economically if Alberta actually was treated like the contributor that it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And it never has been. It never has been.
Absolutely. And let's talk that for a second, because I didn't understand quite the reality of the equalization payments and how much money is getting wasted to Quebec. I lived there in Quebec for 20 years. And
Oh man.
one of the things, oh, yeah. One of the things I mentioned, what I realized is that 2/3 of the money that gets out of Alberta goes to Quebec specifically. Not only that, this province
Yep.
has never balanced their provincial budget ever for the time it was there ever, and the public sector is so huge, you do not believe how huge it is. And they have a
Straight up
different
communism, man.
Oh yeah, they have a very different mentality. Like the value of just the man, just if you want to start a business in Quebec, you're literally crazy because the provincial government and the federal government is going to sue you, is going to try to destroy your reputation, your business, everything. And now you got to the point when in Alberta you can at least start a business and make some money out of it. If we'll make more money if that wasn't for Ottawa though. But at the same time, I mean,
Oh
they
yeah,
have a
we would
mentality in
make more.
Quebec, which
Yeah,
Quebec has a they have a poverty mentality. They fundamentally, especially the Quebec government, they fundamentally believe, and I'm not talking the Quebec people in general, but just the Quebec government. They absolutely
no,
behave
the
like
government, yeah,
communists. Yeah, and I know people in the business community in Quebec who are
straight up.
definitely they're definitely thinking in a more conservative mindset. It's just that the the Quebec government is completely ignorant to that, and they just believe that everybody should be paying their fair share. When in fact they just waste so much money. They don't have. They have. Do you know that Quebec has the largest? That has more natural gas than Alberta has. Do you know that?
Yeah, I've heard of that. It's a scandal, man. It's ridiculous, and they purposefully leave it in the ground so they don't have to get off of the Alberta equalization teat.
Yeah, and it's so bad, in fact, that in Quebec specifically, they have more natural gas. And during the last provincial election in 2022, the Conservative Party of Quebec, of the province, the provincial conservatives,
Yep.
was campaigning on that fact that that those guys can develop natural gas in that area. But obviously the government is so being so greenwash. I don't call it brainwash, call greenwash into idea that we should not
Yep.
develop those resources, the natural gas that's buried on the ground. So they decided to not do it. So there's a culture over there which
That's
is
a
like,
good term, man.
yeah, greenwashing. You can look that up. But basically, what they're over there in Quebec, they have this notion. They're working differently. They're working at the opposite side of Alberta. In Alberta, we have very entrepreneurial lifestyle, mindset, Christian,
Yep.
and in Quebec, it's like the complete opposite. So I understand what you're feeling from there.
Yep.
Um, so I just want to also another question as well, because you answered that into to my you also answered that as well too. Are you involved with other what they call freedom groups, like because you've been very present with APP, right? You've been, I think you filmed an event in for Sask. I was there. You filmed another event, I believe, in Bonneville. Is that
Yeah. Yeah,
Bonneville?
Bonneville. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you filmed
I've
Bonneville.
been
You
mostly
filmed.
involved with APP, man.
Okay, most involved with APP. How long have you been involved with APP? Ever
Yeah,
since the
like I am
concept?
not. Sorry, go ahead.
So you've been involved with APP since the concept, since the beginning, or later on? Like,
What happens is that I was looking for the most legitimate, nonpartisan organization pushing for, and when I say legitimate, I want to put emphasis on that. What does legitimate mean? Because of course, if there's a party like the ones that recently lost that by election in Three
the
Hills,
Alberta,
Didsbury,
that's called
it's
the
a
Alberta
legitimate party. That's
Republicans.
why they ran. But I mean legitimate in the sense that they genuinely have their only goal is not political power, as far as you can see, is to push Alberta towards more independence or complete independence from Canada, for that the group that is defending Alberta's interests. I
Yeah,
also found out, which I appreciated, that the APP, Alberta Prosperity Project, is a non-profit organization, non-profit
yeah,
educational organization, and they're also again non-partisan. And
yeah.
that to me is huge because politicians, they all have their agendas, right? All
True.
politicians have their agendas. They all just want to get power. So that's why they also were making the most noise. They were
Mm-hmm.
getting the most attention, and that is how I found them. You take Jeffrey Rath, the infamous cowboy with the the cowboy hat and the 51st state comments. that is partially how I found it. I found the APP. I was like, okay, because I had heard of the APP before, but I hadn't seen the attention that it, till then. Like, it was getting a lot more attention after that announcement that a delegation was going to be heading down south, and that's literally one of the first stories that I started talking about on my channel,
Mm,
was going
interesting.
down there. And another thing about it is that I was completely on board with that idea. Why not get the support of the United States, whether we join them or not? And I'm also of the belief that Alberta would be much better off separating from Canada and either becoming an independent country, but also it would be better off becoming a state of the United States. The
Yeah. Oh,
Constitution of the USA is just a lot stronger, and it's just a lot stronger than and fair to each state than what we have in Canada currently, which isn't worth the paper it's written on.
yeah, exactly. And basically, and that's another thing about the Alberta and the Canadian Constitution. I've read the Constitution, by the way, the Canadian one, multiple times. And what it seems to find, and what I found very surprisingly, is that if you take the U.S. Constitution, you can basically do a copy and paste of their Constitution, put into the moon, and the moon will become his own country, literally. In the
Yeah.
Canadian Constitution, there are over 170, 60, over 150, uh, 150 times where Quebec in Lower and Upper Canada was found. So this tied to a demographics, tied to a geographic, to a physical location. And also, we've seen what happened throughout this pandemic, right? With the abuse of from the government, especially federal government, well, multiple levels of
Oh
governments,
man.
but especially from the federal government. That is like the straw for me. That is the moment when I said to myself, "Well, Canada has become so broke and so woke and so rogue that is almost more impossible to fix it from within." So the only time, and now we see Alberta independence movement as a way to live and a way to let this Canadian system rotten on its own weight. And Alberta will eventually emerge from the ashes, basically, right?
Oh man. You mentioned something about the scamdemic, right? That is
Yeah.
exactly when I said, you know what, I'm gonna pack up my family. I packed up my family and I got out of the city because I lived in the city. I lived in Edmonton for quite some time. I said I'm
Hmm.
gonna pack up my family and I'm gonna move to the countryside. And I just moved out to the countryside and I've never looked back, man. I
Oh,
I
yeah.
love the countryside. I love small town. This
Absolutely.
was the last frontier. They obviously try to come out here, but out here it was a lot less. The draconian policies and rules that they were imposing on people and laws and freaking closing churches and arresting pastors and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That was a lot less pronounced in rural Alberta. And people had
Yeah,
a lot more common
absolutely.
sense. I get along a lot more with a rural Albertan than I'll get with an Edmontonian, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And especially Edmonton. When I moved here in Edmonton, when I moved here to Edmonton, uh, even throughout the last 2 years I've been here, there's been a drastic change across like multiple years. There's a drastic change in a lot of levels, and I know there's going to be a municipal election soon. And one of the guys I've heard that the city of Edmonton has $3.5 billion in debt with a B. The city of Edmonton. So just
That's
imagine how
crazy.
that money is being spent on stupid bike lanes and LRTs and LRTX stations that nobody uses. I when I go on Millwoods, like which is on 66th Street, there's a new LRT line over there. That train is constantly empty.
Yep.
Yeah, it's constantly empty. How much money they
Yeah.
spend, I
People
don't
don't.
know.
They don't use it.
Yeah, and I remember one time I flew down east to see my family, and I was talking with some people who were flying from Edmonton to Toronto, and they were talking about that LRT line in Millwoods on 66th Street, and they basically telling me that they've been doing that for almost 8 years now, and they cannot cancel because they are too far ahead in the project, they cannot cancel at all.
Yep.
It's nuts. So you're very
Yep.
involved with
Yeah.
APP. That's how you said, okay, that's gonna get full on board on independence when it's through APP, right?
Yeah, I thought they were the most legitimate, and I've already explained
Hmm.
what I mean when I say legitimate. I believe they're the ones that have the most credibility is the word I'm looking for
Yeah,
when
yeah,
it comes
absolutely.
to actually pushing for independence for the right reasons and genuinely for the people of Alberta. I am not like I'm not an employee of the AVP. I'm not even a
Me either.
volunteer. I
Hmm.
suppose like officially because I definitely promote them because of the reasons I just explained. So
Yeah,
you could say I'm a volunteer, but not really. I'm just expressing my genuine thoughts about them. I've had the opportunity to meet the CEO, Mitch Sylvester. These people are not politicians, man. Mitch he's from Bonneville. That's where he's from. He's a business owner, man, of
yeah,
decades. Business owner. Dr.
and
Dennis
even
Modry is a freaking surgeon,
yeah,
a doctor, a surgeon. And then you have Jeff Rath, who's a lawyer with a law firm. These are people that have jobs. They're well off. You know, they
yeah,
don't need this for political reasons. Another thing I appreciate about Mitch Sylvester is that his political activism. I haven't looked as much into the others, more surface level, but Mitch was with the Black Hats, which was basically pushing for an Alberta Bill of Rights for people to have
yep,
their property rights protected, which I'm a big fan of that. Pro gun, pro self defense,
yep.
and Mitch was at the forefront of that with the Black Hats, and I really appreciate that pushing for that Alberta Bill of
Yeah,
Rights. So these are people who genuinely, man, have been pushing
on the
for more
field.
autonomy for this land we
Yeah,
call Alberta. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's kind of what I found from the freedom movement in general, not just APP or Quebec, Alberta, or what have you. Is the level of should I say the level of um, it's like a Venn diagram. I don't know if you're aware of that the concept of a Venn diagram, but basically you have multiple groups who are working um, together, if you will. You have the same number of people more working on
mm,
multiple groups from APP, uh, Tobacco Bird, if you will, and other groups as well. And a lot of them, like when I was at the ACP at the UCP AGM last year, I recognized a lot of people I met. Oh, I know this guy. He's from Red Deer.
mm,
I know this
yeah,
guy is from Bonneville. I know this guy is from Calgary, right? I know this guy is from Spruce Grove. So eventually you're as people are getting to this movement, the grassroots movement in the province, which is very strong. Let me tell you that you're starting to see a lot of those people in multiple groups. Like you're gonna get a lot of phone numbers from people, right? Over time, and that's kind of like what I found interesting is that if you are fighting, if you're in the grassroots, there's always something to fight, and there's always
yep,
people who you get surrounded by, not just Alberta Prosperity Project, but if you go to the AGM, this is something that um, um, Mitch Sylvester was insisting throughout all these town hall meetings is that people will need to get involved not just at the town hall level, but more politically as well. Just show up. It's what is very important. And in fact, just at the Alberta Next panel, that was at least in Sherwood Park, would have been. There were some people on the left who
I think
had
you were
very
there,
bad.
weren't you? You were at
I
the
was there.
Edmonton one, right?
Sherwood Park.
They sent a
Well,
bunch of NDPers, bunch of commies and socialists were in there, man. I was watching your live stream. Holy crap, did they send a bunch of communists in
yeah,
there?
yeah, they were very vocal and they were very like I wouldn't say disrespectful, but at the same time they were activists, right? And I
Borderline,
think
borderline
borderline.
disrespectful. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I found sad because I was talking to a bunch of them prior to the meeting, and they were saying, well, we came here because Daniel Smith was talking about a massive investment of $500 million into the new stadium in Edmonton, something that along those lines. And they don't care about, and they were referring to the UCP, they don't care about public health care and that sort of thing. I'm like, those people are like, so they were trying to corner Daniel Smith with something that would completely off the track of what the discussion was all about, like which is the Alberta police, the Alberta
Yeah,
pension plan, the
yeah.
equalization stuff, and everything.
It's because they don't
That
have an argument, man. It's what I tell you. The opponents do not have an argument on the merits of what being more independent does for the province. So all they have is emotional arguments, name calling, and nostalgia. Nostalgia being like, well, but there are brothers and sisters in
nostalgia,
hockey, and yeah, in
nostalgia is
hockey,
the.
and we fought in wars, and they don't have anything else.
You realize that all those people who were, and nostalgia is the right word, I believe. What I've seen on the ground in that specific town hall meeting is people over 60, basically, who are retirees from the public sector or people who are about to
Yep,
retire. And then when they get told
the
that
usual
people are
suspects.
going, yeah, when they're gonna move from a Canadian pension plan, which is not even a pension plan, by the way. Most of the people, I don't know about how their pension benefits look like, but it's probably not even managed by the CBP. By the way, this is probably managed by another pension fund. I think it's ICOM. Once you get to and once you start to outline the benefits from, in this case, moving from a Canadian pension plan, which doesn't have any money because most of the money was probably being sent to the balance budget, to the balance sheet of the federal government, to an Alberta provincial plan, they just freak out. They say, "Oh, Daniel Smith, I don't want her to manage my money." Okay, so that's her argument. Another thing that you just outlined, and this is something that I can tell you as an immigrant myself, when people come here to Canada, and this is, I'm rather an essay on that as well too. When people move here to, let's say they want to move to the
Yep.
States, okay? And when I move to the States, you don't think that I'm going to move to, let's say, Idaho. You just want to move to the States. So when you are, let's say, an immigrant and you want from move from one place to another, you don't think of moving to a peculiar state. Like if I were to choose to move to the United States, I will go to Montana, I will go to Florida or Texas, right? I will not go to California, right? So basically,
No,
people are
no.
gonna no,
Stay
people are
away from
gonna.
there.
Exactly. So basically, people are going to think of that as, okay, I'm going to the United States and not specific to a state in general. When you get along with the area and that sort of thing, then you're going to start shopping for states. And basically, what happened is that about
Hmm.
nostalgia is that the older community or the people who are in the elbows up movement, they are clinging to nostalgia. They refuse to believe that their country
Hmm.
they fought so hard during the first and second world war, I think second world, is actually dying, and their apathy is contributing to that. And that sounds pretty much
Yes,
like Quebec too.
yes,
They cling to the historic
yeah, man.
component.
That's a
Yeah.
huge deal. Is the fact that they're thinking about a country that was they're longing for used to be like Canada is not the country it was even a decade ago, man. Like it's changed for the worse drastically and very rapidly.
Oh yeah.
But when you're 70, old habits die hard. And I don't mean this about all seniors. I have a large amount of my subscribers who support Alberta independence on both sides of the border, who are older people who are
Yeah.
very wise and support, like I said, Alberta independence. But there's certainly a percentage of the population here in Canada that are they're resistant to the idea to the idea of Alberta separating because of nostalgia. Because okay,
Hmm.
well, you're breaking the country apart. Okay, well, I have cousins and nephews and nieces in Manitoba. If Alberta separates, then I can't. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
betraying them. I'm betraying my grandma, my mother, who went to, like you mentioned, World War I, World War II, and fought for Canada. But they're also
Yeah.
not looking at the other historical aspect of that, man, which I wanted to touch earlier, which is that Alberta has been trying to get a fair deal in this federation for decades. Since Alberta joined in 1905, Alberta has had to fight for whatever it's gotten so far. All the other provinces that were a part of Canada, take the Atlantic provinces and then take Ontario and Quebec, they had, for an example, they had ownership of their resources from inception. From the beginning, they had ownership of whatever natural resources were part of their land. Alberta, along with Saskatchewan and Manitoba, had to literally fight for the same rights. So,
Yeah.
from their inception, when they were purchased as part of Rupert's Land and they were incorporated into Canada, then there was the whole war, the Red River thing going on with Louis Riel and all that. But from
Mm-hmm.
its inception, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, they just haven't been treated the same. They just haven't, and that has been the same from 1915 with that milch cow
Yeah.
campaign. I don't know if you've seen that cartoon. I've shown it on my channel multiple times.
Yeah.
You got this
That's the huge
cow being,
cow.
being
Yeah.
milked in the east and being fed with the west resources
Yep.
in 1930s. So Alberta joins Confederation in 1905, and it wasn't until the 1930s that it finally got ownership of its own natural resources. And
Mm-hmm.
to this day, man, you know which one is one of the biggest, like the most scandalous things, is the Senate seat count. I put that
Oh
on my channel
yeah,
all the time because
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
something that it's mind-boggling, man.
The
You
seat
take,
count
which
and
is, it's just insane.
the seat count, the Senate
You
seat
have
count, the
New
MPs.
Brunswick. Yeah, yeah, but I like the Senate for a picture. I wish I brought like a little literal physical picture. You take New Brunswick, for example. New Brunswick has a population of less than 1 million people. Last time I checked, less than 1 million people. Alberta surpassed 5 million people. New Brunswick over here has 10 senators in the Senate. 10 senators. Alberta has 6. Make that make sense. 10 senators
It
for a
doesn't.
population of less than 1 million people. Alberta has 6. And then you add to that the fact that Alberta subsidizes New Brunswick. Alberta, like equalization money taken from Alberta, pays for a chunk of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia's annual budget. That's
Yeah.
adding insult to injury. And a lot of people ignore these. And these are facts. This is not opinion. These are facts. And that's why they don't argue those. They don't go like, well, yeah, let me go ahead and try to justify why New Brunswick is supposed to have more. There's that beautiful map. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
24
little blue
connecting point
area on the
zero.
right, farthest to the right, is the Maritimes. Combined, they have less than like 2.5 million 2.5 million people to Alberta's 5 million, and altogether you combine them all, they
Yeah.
have like I think between 26 and 30 seats in the Senate,
Mm-hmm.
while Alberta has only 6. Same Saskatchewan, same British Columbia, and same Manitoba. But it really bothers me that Alberta, of all provinces, the one that contributes per capita the most
Mm-hmm.
to Confederation, has put up with that. Then you
And one
have
of the
the
things that,
MPs and so on and so forth, man.
oh
It's
yeah, it's appalling. I recorded an event in Barhead a while ago. I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna send you a link if you look that up. But basically, in that link, in that video, they were explaining the imbalance between the value of representation between the provinces. So let's say that
oh man, yeah.
uh, you have more people represented by vote. So your vote weights more in the Maritimes than it does in Alberta. And though Alberta contributes more
By
to the
far.
GDP, yeah, I'm not surprised that the Canadian dollar is basically a petrodollar based on Alberta money. So once Alberta separate, pretty much the value of the Canadian dollar will absolutely
Oh
plunge.
my
So
gosh.
yeah,
It'll be 20 cents to the US dollar. The Canadian dollar will become the Canadian peso officially. It'll be like 20 cents to the
yeah.
American dollar once Alberta becomes independent.
After 1 or 3 days before the referendum, that's gonna fall like crazy. So get bitcoins, get US dollar, get gold and silver. Do not rely on assets on Canadian dollars because it's gonna down the tubes. I'm
Yep.
gonna show you
Buy
another
US
picture.
dollar, buy gold. Yep.
I want to show you something, another picture as well about the. This is another. So this is the picture you see here. The way the system works is that they're separated by regions. So basically, you have six senators here, but this is like six senates. There are six Senate seats throughout Western Canada. Or not? Hold on a second. I'm just looking at the picture here.
24 for all of Western Canada. 24.
Yeah, 24 for Western Canada. So have each province have um,
Yep.
six Senate seats. Ontario has 24. Quebec has 24. Even technically, Ontario
Yep.
under that the current formula should have more seats than Quebec because the biggest province is Ontario, not
Then
Quebec.
Quebec.
Yeah,
Yep.
Quebec.
Yep.
Exactly. I want to show you something really cool about that as well. So I want to show you the for those who are watching online, I'm just gonna point that out. The video I was referring to, just for a second, I'm just gonna find that out. By the way, if you are on social media right now, if you're watching this online, I want you to go to um, abexit.ca. Okay, I'm gonna show a screen here. Okay, I'm just gonna share the screen. Application window, open tab here. Just a second. I'm just gonna. I'm typing it out as a speech now. Okay, as I go. So abexit.ca. Okay. Your browser
Yes,
has
that's it.
died. So you can look that up. I'm gonna put on the banner abexit.ca. Scroll across the banner. There we go. abexit.ca. So when you go up there to abexit.ca, I'm gonna show you something about it. So I'm gonna go here. All right. I think people can see my page here. Fantastic. So basically in there, that's the Freedom
There
Canada
we go.
website. Yeah, that's the Freedom Canada website. If you scroll down the list, you're gonna see the petitions for both Alberta and Saskatchewan because they also have their own movements there. So if you click there for Alberta, that's gonna show the petition from the Alberta Prosperity Project there. So you can scroll down a little bit, right? If you go on Saskatchewan, you're gonna see the petition from Unified Grassroots there, right? So that's their
Yep.
petition there. Also, yeah. Also, if you scroll down a bit, you're gonna see video clips and entire town hall meetings. So when you click on town hall meetings, for example, that's gonna go on YouTube. And basically, you're gonna see all the town hall meetings across the province. I know that my screen lag a little bit here. Okay, there we go. So basically, it's like the town hall meetings for in the my mistake. So these are the clips based on the town hall meetings that were recorded. Okay. And you can look that up. This is something that you can share with your friends as well too. Another thing I'm going to share is also the town hall meetings here. So if you go in on the town hall meetings, was the the green one, you're going to see the actual town hall meetings from APP. That it's entirely the 2 hour long town hall meetings. They all in there, not just APP, but that this is Alberta's day. This is the town hall meeting from the economic framework update. So a lot of those things, all of those videos are shared on social media right now. So if you wanna, uh, if you want to, let's say, if you want to wake up your friends, that's how you do, right? So that's how you do. So I share that on social media, and I just how I wake people up with that information because it's a lot of misconception, and that's especially with the older community. Like we're talking about the nostalgia component here. A lot of the people who are in those town hall
Mm-hmm.
meetings, who are very noisy, are essentially people who are about to retire, and some activists like from university. I don't know which university. I
Yep.
don't really care, but they're very, very ill informed, and they're very, should I say, they're very ill informed, and they're very noisy. But they have no. There's a fraction of the people there who want to listen to our arguments to some extent, but At the same time, I said to myself, well, eventually the truth's gonna come over to them, and they will have to face the music at this point. It's not like we haven't told them that, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
It
man.
is.
Education is the ultimate solution. Education is the ultimate solution. There is, and I believe, who is it that said this? It might have been Keith Wilson, that constitutional lawyer from Alberta. He said that there's us third, and I would dare say we're more like 40 to 45%, because of course they're saying, oh, we've seen polls, like the mainstream media will say, we've seen polls that go up to 35%. If the mainstream media, the government paid media, is admitting that there's 35 to 37% support for Alberta independence, add 10% more to that,
Yeah.
at least 5% more. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say I'll go in the middle. I'll say 40% of us ready to go. We've had enough, at
Yep.
least all the way in or leaning in. Then you have
Yeah.
the ones that you'll never convince. These are the
And goes
union
up.
types, the people that are activists, the people that are genuinely and honestly too far gone. They're just not interested. They don't want to hear it. They want
Mm-hmm.
they want 15-minute cities. They want 10 boosters in their on their shoulders. 10 freaking, you already know what I mean. I don't want to get your show canceled here, man, or shadow banned. They want to eat bugs. They want to eat the bugs. They want to own nothing and be happy, right?
Oh,
You're
nothing
not
and
gonna
be happy.
convince those people. You're
Yeah.
not gonna convince
And
them. Then there's in Alberta, they're probably a third, and you best believe they're gonna be coming from Ontario, from Quebec. They're gonna be coming here. The
mm-hmm.
battle has just begun. They're gonna be coming here and they're gonna do their activism. There's gonna be protests in the streets as the referendum becomes imminent. But then we
Yeah.
have what I call fertile land. Those people in the middle, those willing to listen, those that
Yeah.
are still, and those are the people that my channel tries to talk to every single day on fact based. Just
Yeah.
facts, just
And
as much economical, historical context as I can give them. And that middle is probably a good 30%. You put our 40 plus that 30, and we're an independent country, man.
one of the things I just realized is that even when I go to a town hall meeting, let's say when I go to a town hall meeting, let's say from APP or other groups as well, I barely see anyone under 40. They're probably over 55 or something. One of the questions, and this is
Not that
something which
many,
I
yeah.
haven't. Yeah, one of the things that I just realized from town hall meetings is that the reason why the younger generation is not politically involved as sometimes I wish they were is because they're basically working with their daily lives. They're working with their jobs. They're dealing with their family. They're dealing with the families. They're dealing with their businesses and their daily lives. Is it something that you think that's to why they're not as politically involved as they wish that they were, like unlike the 55s and over? Just a question. I mean, because that's my
It's
assessment,
like
right?
you say. Yeah, man, it's like
Yeah.
you say. Canada's youth, the most recent reports, the unemployment rate is highest among Canadian youth, among that population between 16. There's no summer jobs here. They're flooding this
Mhm.
country with cheap labor. People that are
Yep.
coming here to be students, they're not immigrating here the way you and I did, legally and following the rule of the rules on the book. They're coming here as students, yet they're not showing up at university. So, and they're
Oh yeah.
taking young Canadian jobs, right? So you have that. Then there's a certain level of apathy from youth, where we tend to be more cynical, and I guess I'll include myself in there because I am under 40. We tend to be more apathetic towards politics, and that's another reason I'm in this,
Yep.
is to bring awareness to people under 40 like myself, that if you want to have a future, if you want to get married and have children, if you
And have
want to
a
own a
house.
freaking home, if you want to own a piece of land, you got to get involved, man. These people are selling your future. You're not going to
Yeah.
own anything. You're going to be in a tiny 100 square foot little apartment
Yep.
with a car that you have to share with your neighbors. And none of this is conspiracy theory. They're moving towards that. They're moving towards the digital currency. It all
Yep.
sounds, oh, Alex Joni and stuff like that. No, it's all happening. They're pushing for a digital currency. They've done it in
It,
Europe. they're in Europe. They already passed. I don't know if you heard the UK,
Yeah.
the whole 16-year-olds
Yeah.
being able to vote because
That's a
the whole
bullshit.
TikTok manipulation and all that. I think
Yeah.
there's a certain level of apathy, and that is where we got to jump in. People like you, Max, freedomcalendar.net, bringing people the facts, bringing
Yep.
education. People like myself, people like all many other creators that are out there doing the hard work and having
Absolutely.
conversations with people. We have to have these talks,
I
and
don't.
the youth, they're gonna come around. They're gonna come around
Absolutely.
because once they see the numbers and the fact that the fact that their nationality is going to mean something, young men especially, but even young women, young men especially though, have they have a longing for motherland. Canada
Mm-hmm.
declared itself a post-national country,
Yeah.
post-national, just like Quebec
Most
during the
national.
Trudeau days, right? And Carney's gonna keep doing the same thing. Once you bring that motherland pride to Alberta, man, like we are Albertan. We can own a gun here to defend ourselves. We can buy a freaking house without having to freaking, sell a kidney and our
Mm-hmm.
liver, some
Yeah.
once you
Absolutely.
bring that in, we're gonna bring a lot of the youth, man.
I often said that Quebec, what's happening in Quebec right now at this very moment, is what's going to happen if Alberta doesn't separate. What you got in Quebec is promiscuity. You have insane low birth rate. The place is
Yeah.
infected with corruption at every separate, at every level, provincially, municipal, and all levels of government. You have rigged elections that you cannot win, and so base and also they have an identity crisis there, which is you have to be a French, and they're trying to create their socialist state, but it's in French. They want to create this communist lifestyle, but
Yep.
hey, it's not français, it's not French, right? So that's what they're trying to do over there. And right now, the problem is that the issue, being as young generation started to realize how bad they were screwed by the system, they started to act upon it, or they moved to Alberta. I've seen multiple people, and in the last 2 years, a lot of people about my young about my age group who moved from Ontario, moved from
They're
Quebec,
coming here.
from Manitoba. They moved here because of freedom. And I think what's going to happen is that
Yep.
as the talk to center of independence are going to uh, increase here in the province, then we're going to start to get people on both ends. People want to move here because of freedom, and other people want to move here because it's cheaper to live here because of the
Oh yeah.
leftist communist ideas from the previous province they lived at, right? So that's gonna like it's
Yep.
good to have immigration, but that's another, it's a double-edged sword. You might have good immigration, but also bad immigration as well. Interprovincial
Hmm.
immigration is another factor too. This is something that's barely noticed. I don't know
Yep.
if you have you ever been here. You've been in Alberta pretty much all your life, right? You haven't been in other provinces, right?
No, I actually lived in British Columbia for some time, and I
Okay,
hated it. Way too
yeah,
communist and socialist for me. I lived in southern, the lower mainland area. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just way. And I moved to Alberta, and I never looked back.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much the what I hear on the ground is that people who moved. I got on my phone. I got I got some 516 phone numbers and 613 phone numbers, but they live in the province. They live. One of them lives in
Yeah.
Okotoks. Some
Yeah.
people live in Statler. Some people live in Calgary, but although they have their 416 phone number from Toronto, so that's good, right? So it's good to see, and they all for independence, by the way. So I
Yeah,
think
man.
that the
Yeah, man. Yeah.
one of the things I've noticed is that Canada can go downhill, but at least there's an option of independence. And this is another thing I was talking. I had this on my mind. I don't know if you're familiar with the works from Vince Byfield in his town hall meetings. He's basically saying that I'm trying to think of what I say here. He's basically saying that when Alberta separates from Canada, because we are a half province here in Alberta, all those provinces who are essentially relying on Alberta will hit rock bottom, especially Toronto, especially Ontario and Quebec, and they will have to rebuild themselves as nations. And then when Alberta becomes its own nation, all those provinces will have to sort of work by themselves. And in a later future,
Yep.
those individual provinces, i.e., states, I call it states, um, those individual provinces will eventually merge together in a stronger Canada rather than a forced Canada. Because if you look at the history of the provinces, um, a lady who I'm going to
Forced.
interview
Yep.
next, yeah, a lady who I'm going to interview next week. Her name is Kathy Flett. She runs the Alberta Women Independence Network, and what she said is that initially the province of Alberta was not actually it was called the Territory of Buffalo or something like that. And eventually, Alberta decided to become
Yep.
independent against the federal government, and the federal government created two provinces out of it, Alberta and Saskatchewan. So what she's saying is,
Yeah, they don't want the power in
yeah,
union.
exactly. So what Vince Byfield was saying is that once pretty much all the provinces in Canada were formed by the federal government by the stroke of a pen, really, and then that's what basically created Alberta. That's what created Saskatchewan. So over time, instead of creating new
Hmm.
provinces, all those provinces, once they get stronger by themselves, they could, and this is a theory, they could merge together and recreate Canada. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it could happen.
Could happen, right?
It's like, speaking of Vince Byfield. He has there's a picture, a diagram, a graphic, whatever you want to call it, that I've featured on my channel. I posted it, and I also made a video where I included it, where he says, "Look, there are three groups in the independence movement that should
Yeah.
all support it, should all support the cause for independence. Number one, if you want pure independence and you want Alberta to be its own country, its own nation, you believe
Yeah.
Alberta can do it, it'd be better off on its own, you should support independence, obviously, reasons. Then you have people who want to become part of the United States. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot unilaterally become part of the United States, legally anyway, because of course there's other ways. The United States is the most powerful country on earth. There's other ways. But legally, you cannot until you're independent. They cannot integrate Alberta until Alberta is an actual independent country,
Yeah. It is.
independent nation.
Yeah.
So if you want to be the 51st state, which again, I believe personally would be better off than what we have right now. I strongly believe that. We also align a lot closer with Montana, Idaho, Texas. When I'm in Montana, which I'm there all the time, crossing that border, hanging out in Helena or Bozeman or Billings, it just feels like home. It feels like an extension
Yeah.
of Alberta, of real
Yeah.
Alberta, rural Alberta. It just makes more sense culturally. Same in Idaho, Pocatello, Idaho Falls. Anyways, and then there's the third group, which is I want to reform Canada for the
Yeah.
sake of this country and my ancestors. If you're a multi-generation Canadian, how does that work though? How does it work that I'm reforming Canada by breaking it apart? Canada doesn't want to itself. The powers that be created a situation in which the status quo will never change from within. It just won't unless there's a political earthquake. And this is what Professor Bruce Party of Queen's University says.
Yeah.
He says there has to be a political earthquake. There has to be something so shocking to the
Yeah.
core of what Canada is that they'll have to change. The
Yeah.
Constitution of Canada is nearly impossible to be amended. It's nearly impossible. You
Yeah.
need, I think, 7 out of the 13 provinces and 50% of the population. Then Quebec pretty much gets a veto de
Yeah.
facto because of the fact that they have their own political party called the Bloc Québécois that can block it in the House, because then you got to go to the House. After all
Mm-hmm.
provinces agree, you got to go to the House. Then you got to go to the unelected, emphasis on that, Senate, pretty much appointed
Yeah.
by the liberal government.
Appointed.
It's nearly impossible. How do I know? We've been trying for decades. anyone who's lived in Alberta long enough, or anyone like me who hasn't lived here that long but has studied a little bit about Preston Manning and the whole Reform Party. Credit to Dr. Michael Wagner. I'm reading his book, Time to Leave, and the book, No Other Option. If you guys want to know about a little bit about Alberta independence, you should definitely read those. But yes, they've been trying forever, man. Like in the 80s, there was a huge effort by the Reform Party, founded by Preston Manning, and there was a young Stephen Harper in there to make reforms. The whole campaign was the West wants in. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, we want in. We want to be a part of this country, and we want to have an equal voice. To no avail. They failed, and they tried for 35 years. That's how I know it doesn't work. You can't try something for 3+ decades, and you could argue for longer, and it didn't work. So why would you? Well, we have to try to fix Canada. Well, if you want to fix Canada, vote for independence, because Alberta might just have the opportunity and the ability to fix Canada by shocking it to its core.
Absolutely. And you know what's so funny about this whole deal is that the people who, what I say basically, and that's another thing is that Canada needs to hit rock bottom, because the idea of dealing with nice neighbors doesn't work anymore. I want to show you something. This is from my YouTube channel. I want to see if I can share this thing here. These are all the slides that I have here. So I'm going to share something really cool. This is from Vince Byfield here.
People. So ironically, the people who want to keep Canada and they know in their gut that what the status quo cannot last. Ironically, if those people really want to keep Canada, everything going. And I would suggest that we don't, if that ever happens, let's not have the capital in Ottawa. Let's leave Ottawa to become basically a place in history. The logical place would actually be Winnipeg, because Winnipeg is almost dead to the country east-west. It's like within 10 kilometers. So anyway, that's the old team. But the thing I wanted to share with you tonight is really, even people who want to save Canada, really save Canada, they should be for independence for Alberta. Because the faster they do that, the faster we save Canada.
And this is another video, very important as well.
And we have the problem of the unholy alliance of Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal. Here's the problem. No matter what we do, if we haven't figured it out now, those three are never going to yield power. Not going to happen. They'll talk, they'll say whatever you want. They're never going to yield power. So really, the only way that Canada can actually ever sustain itself is if the current system of government implodes, which it's doing. The only province keeping it afloat. So, ironically, if a person, so let's say it does implode, and so that now you have Alberta as its own nation, or working its way towards a nation, and Saskatchewan shortly follows. My dad said this: the rest, if Alberta goes, the rest of the Confederation is going to fall apart like dominoes. Within a decade, it'll all fall apart.
That's what we're talking about.
But what if all those provinces become nations of one sort or another, but then they decide to rebuild? They try to go back together. So you've got your 10 provinces, you've got your 3 territories, you got 13 colonies. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
And they go together and they say, let's start over new as all equal.
I want to I want to show you. I want to show you another. I want to show you another clip as well. I don't think I can do this. Yeah, I'm gonna stop the feed over there. Yeah. So basically, that's kind of like a lot of the things that have been mentioned in the last 3 months is really boiled down to, I believe, I can say because I'm 35, right? And you're probably in that age category as well. This the notion is that we need to relearn our history. Once you relearn your history, that's when I think we can make better decisions. Is that is what is boiling down to the idea of independence. There, that is why the academia and the school system is trying very hard to not teaching those things, so people can be dumbed down and believe in the psyop
Yep.
of Canada. I sincerely believe that Canada is the largest psyop ever. Don't you think?
It's something to that effect, my friend, for sure. Something to that
Yeah.
effect. Uh, Vince Byfield, man, the way he puts things, I really appreciate. Like he
Yeah.
explains it that in a very digestible manner. Canada is a system that has is a system that has basically ironclad the status quo. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot touch that status quo unless you have complete and total political collapse. And what can do that? Alberta leaving. Alberta is literally the keystone here. Alberta leaves. Look, man, not Saskatchewan. Quebec leaves tomorrow. I would dare say Canada's better off economically.
Oh
Better
yeah,
off. They're a
absolutely.
drain. They don't contribute financially. They don't contribute with anything, and then they're mostly stuck up. The culture in general. I'm sure there's exceptions in Quebec. There's some decent people, but in general, the culture is one of look over your shoulder, like I'm better than you type thing. And this is not just my opinion. I'm pretty sure a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people view it that way. But if
Yeah.
Quebec actually left tomorrow, I honestly wish they did. If they left, the country can actually make itself more even because this drain of attention, resources, entitlement is out now. It's
Do you
gone.
realize that
If Alberta left, if Alberta left, Ontario cannot sustain it. Ontario cannot be, oh, Ontario's the biggest economy. Yeah, Ontario's not the biggest contributor to
no,
equalization, my friend, even though
no,
they're the biggest economy. Alberta
now
is. A
and
third
what's funny
of
about
Nova
Ontario
Scotia's. Uh, yeah,
and
go
what's
ahead.
funny about Ontario, as I'm sorry, there's a little lag here. And what's funny about Ontario is that if you lived in Quebec, you notice, right? Quebec and Ontario, they were provinces that were essentially rival. So they're like, oh, we can do better because we're in Quebec. We're fighting against Ontario. That's their mentality there. I know because I lived there. And so the mentality was like against Ontario, we are better than Ontario. Now, Ontario is getting so bad from an economical standpoint because of liberal policies, by the way, that Quebec is ranting about the fact that Quebec is better off, so to speak, than Ontario. But in fact, it's just that the economy from Ontario actually shrank relative to Quebec, and
They're
the
a terrible
expenses and
culture.
is that what culture. So now what's happening right now is that if Quebec separates, which I think I don't think they will separate. The dynamic the dynamic between Quebec and Alberta, it's different. Like when Quebec wanted to separate, it's all up because they think they were different from a language perspective because they spoke French, they have different culture. Alberta's independence movement is all about from the abuse from the Laurentian government. They're not the same. So when
Yep.
Quebec left, they were like, "Oh, stay in Canada, stay in Canada. We'll buy more poutine, and we'll watch the Montreal Habs." On the contrast, the independence movement in Alberta was like, "You cannot leave Canada." That's even Justin Trudeau was saying, "You can't leave Canada." So basically,
Yep.
the motives are different between Alberta leaving and Quebec leaving.
Indeed. Yeah, man, it's a completely different approach. It's incredibly hypocritical. Every person who's simping for Quebec, and I'll use that word because it's basically that. Simping for Quebec should give their head a shake. They are a drain. They're a drain of resources, yet they're pampered. It makes no sense. Looking again as a person who is Albertan by choice and came here by choice and
Yeah.
loves this province by choice. I didn't have the privilege of being born here, but I did have the privilege and the opportunity to choose this to be my home, the home of my children. And looking from an outsider's perspective, somewhat having come from a different architectural, country, basically in the sense of like political architecture is what I meant. I don't see any other country where there's a region that is so useless financially, literally a drain, yet it's so pampered. In other countries, you would shame that region. You would send them less resources. You'd be
Yeah.
like, yeah, you don't contribute that much. You would pamper the golden goose. But Alberta gets mistreated at every single chance. Alberta's desire for equality in this federation has been met with name calling, undermining, underestimating, basically just completely dismissing us. There was that old lady, you were there, you were present there, who called us a bunch of bratty children for wanting fair treatment. Bless her heart, she probably watches
Yeah.
CBC all day, so I I get where she's
Oh,
coming from in that sense, but that's the attitude, man. It's you guys are just a bunch of bratty children. Really?
well, if
Because
you're
we
in
want fair treatment? How about we are people who stand up for themselves? How about that?
if you're in business, you're not gonna get that treatment. If you're in business, you're not gonna treat Miss Filler, you're out of business, right? That's different. And the thing is that
Yeah.
when she came from a very she looked at the mainstream media as her source of information. I was in Calgary. I recorded that event for Jeff Rath over there, and I was live streaming the event. And there was this lady from the CPC was asking questions, and she was really trying to push little Fabio's petition. I'll talk about Thomas Luzakic's, the Polish guy. I don't know his name. I call little Fabio because that's also found funny. Little Fabio. That's from Corey Morgan. I love that family. Jeff Rath call him little Tommy. I call little Fabio because it's unrelated. Anyways,
Tell me.
and she was trying to
I can't
push the
stand the guy
idea
already.
that little Fabio's petition is really going to do something, right? But in reality, he doesn't have the resources that APP has. He doesn't have the resources that the grassroots has. Like the grassroots in Alberta, it's estimated to be around 300,000 people. That's the grassroots in Alberta. If you take all those groups together, when you go to the AGM from the UCP in Red Deer, we were about 6,000 people. In the last year before that, we have probably like 3,000 people. So it's going exponentially. I would not be surprised that in the next AGM in Edmonton, he will have like 10,000 people at least. And I watched from the Western Standard that a lot of there's a lot of resolutions at the UCP convention. No, there were a lot of resolutions that are geared towards independence, and those guys will be
Yep.
presented at the AGM. So there's a collective effort at multiple levels. There's APP. There's some people within the UCP who are members of APP. Let's be honest, and other freedom groups as well. So they're all
Oh yeah. Oh
intertwined
yeah.
towards independence, which is very awesome. You see the grassroots community out there as well. But the point of the matter is the other side from the CBC and all those guys are purposely downgrading the importance of independence and the value that people like Jeff Raff, Dennis Modry, and Mitchell Vester are doing. And people like us who are essentially saying, people like us who are pushing this idea, perhaps I find it's a good idea. Um, they're essentially diminish us into thinking that we're essentially useless people, right? That we don't care about Canadians. Well, we care a lot about Canadians. It's just that I believe that the current structure of Canada cannot stand any longer right now. And we don't. If Canada
I'm
doesn't leave,
unapologetically, yeah.
if
No,
Canada
I
doesn't,
just wanted to say I'm unapologetic about being Alberta first. I'm not even
Mhm.
sorry anymore. Like the
Yeah,
whole, we got to get to that mentality. I wish this country fixed itself. I wish there was fairness for everybody, but I've also studied what they've done to Alberta for decades. I've also learned the many instances in which they've completely been malicious towards this province. Not careless. There's carelessness and negligence, and then there's malevolence.
yeah,
They
absolutely.
willfully are trying to sabotage this province. Trudeau the senior, Trudeau the father, for those of you watching, Pierre Trudeau, he was governing in the 80s. And this guy, literally, because the price of oil went up due to the fact that there was a war in the Middle East, so supply went down from the Middle East. Alberta's commodities went through the roof. I think they experienced like a tripling of the price of oil from like
Yeah,
$4 to like 12. This guy walks in, this is in the 80s, so Alberta has already power over its own resources and control over it constitutionally. This guy walks in with something they call the NEP, National Energy Program, and says, you're not going to get that rich under me, not on my watch, and imposes an export tax on a provincial resource, which is oil and gas, only and only so that Alberta didn't get that amount of clout financially. He literally expressed that. He said, "This is
yeah,
exactly why I'm doing it. Alberta, the West, cannot have more revenue and power than the central government in Ottawa."
and that's the
So
thing.
this is not, people. This is not carelessness. This is
Is
malevolence. This is evil.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that when you think about it, if you want to advance a country, let's say Canada in this case, you will do your best that Canada, or you will do your best to make sure that that your country works operationally well, right? If you're a business, like if you run a
Yes,
business, you want your
yes.
business to succeed, you want your business to grow, you want your business to sustain itself. The way the system is designed itself is almost like a top-down structure, which is basically people living at the expense of the others, which is not sustainable at all.
Very lopsided.
Absolutely not, and
Yep.
that's what really makes me mad, and makes me mad and sad at the same time, because when you move to, and I can tell as an immigrant, you will not think about Canada doing that to other provinces at all. He's only. I think that right now
No.
in 2025, I think evil's been revealed, and the evil's been revealed, and now we can see the ugliness of the Canadian system. I'm not saying that Canada cannot be reformed, but right now I think we're past to the point in society right now where people just don't like. To me, let's be honest, I don't care what Ottawa was doing. They can put Trudeau in there. They can put Mark Carnage in there. They can put Poliver in there. I don't really care because Alberta will separate anyways. So they will have to dance with the music, whether they
Hmm.
like it or not. And on the other hand, if you take people like my generation, we need to basically say the same thing. Like there's a lot of people who are pushing in. If you go to a town hall meeting, you see only people over 55. I was glad that I saw people in Forsas who are essentially about my um, age demographic, which is awesome, right? Who are paying attention to those
Hmm.
things. But I remain fairly optimistic. Besides what was everything going on and everything, I remain fundamentally optimistic about the current situation. I think people are
Me
realizing,
too.
yeah, uh, and that what kind of helps me gives me hope. Just imagine if you're conservative in Ontario. When you are conservative in Ontario, where every single neighbor is pretty much a liberal, not a liberal, but if you talk to your neighbors, if you do surveys, a political surveys, it's not necessarily if you do a survey. The survey I usually look for is the neighbor vote. So basically, it's asking your neighbor what we're going to vote for, right? That's the metrics I evaluated, and most of them are conservatives, right? But
Yep.
what's actually going on in the province of Ontario is that you have Doug Ford, which is a closet liberal, and you have a business to carry, you have employees to feed, and all that stuff. And on the other hand, you have Alberta, who has doing what they can to stand their feet against Ottawa, and they look at Ontario basically falling apart. It's Ontario is really going downhill, right? I talk to people in Ontario a lot, and they're mostly moving here to the province in the hopes to get a better future because they don't see Canada as a nation where they can raise children at all, and that's going to
Yeah, man.
continue. It's going to go on a trend with the younger generation having more mobility and more opportunities. They're going to come move west either for freedom or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a conservative in Ontario, that's what you do. Unless you leave the country altogether, which there's a lot of that happening. Oh man, the numbers are through the roof. The amount of emigration, net people leaving the country, the brain drain, the amount of investment that is exiting the country is insane, man. We're losing a lot of great businesses. We're losing a lot of people. But if you're an Ontarian and you're like, you know what, I want to move, what's the easiest, least resistance path for me to stay within Canada, but live with people that are more aligned with what I believe in, free enterprise, safety, hard work, and all of that, then you move to Alberta or you move to
Yep.
Saskatchewan, which is the closest thing to Alberta as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and even Saskatchewan is significantly different from Alberta from a sociological perspective. I recorded an event in Saskatoon a while ago about a group like the APP type of group called Unified Grassroots, and they are basically outlining the difference between Alberta and Saskatchewan, but they have different history than Alberta,
Yep.
but they're very common provinces. So what do you think that we
Yeah,
need
it's
to
a lot of
do?
similarity.
What do you think we need to do to get the younger generation on board, like the academia type of people in there? What are your thoughts on that? Or because I think
So
we
what
are
do
essentially,
we think we need to?
yeah. Because what I've seen on the ground, like on the media landscape, like the people who are owning the podcast and everything, they are, if you're lucky, over 30. They're not like in their 18 years old. They might be somewhere around. If you know me, someone let me know. But overwhelmingly, the people who are actually pushing the streams and everything, they're in our generation, I guess. So what do you think we need to do to get to the younger generation? Like like let's say my little sister type of generation, like, you know, not the
Yeah,
millennials,
we
but
need to
the
meet
next
them where
one.
they're at, man. We gotta come to them. A good chunk of them they're gonna come to us. A portion of them once we. This is only gonna get louder, man. This is early days, and this is getting and gathering so much attention from the world. You got CNN over here the other day. You got the BBC from Britain. You got. I think there was a documentary from DW, which is from Germany. This is only gonna get louder once
Yeah.
there's a referendum and we're collecting signatures. I'll probably be recording live. I'll be live streaming signature collections. This is gonna get loud, and as the finer details continue to be defined, continue to be polished, so that when there's questions, what if, there's gonna be a lot of whataboutism and a lot of what ifs. Once those are defined, and people are, oh well, what about my pension? Well, here you go. What about my passport? Well, here's what the law says. Here you go. What about my banking? Will banking be the same? Like, once those finer details, but then specifically for young people, I think we need to meet them where they're at. We gotta go through conservative associations. I believe personally, associations in colleges. In Alberta, there's conservative associations in colleges. Go to them. We also would want to encourage those who already volunteer and are already on board to get their opinion out there. Not
Yeah.
just like to their friend, which is amazing. Please do that. But also, if you are inclined, I don't think I'm, podcaster material, but I just started talking to
Mhm.
people, and I'm putting my voice out there. Do the same. Do it. Talk to
Yeah,
people in your free time, in your spare time, when you're not studying, when you're not in school. Take an hour out of your day and talk to people and
yeah.
share the message.
One of the things that I found that is very effective is to tell about it. One of the things I found effective is to not tell people that they are being ill informed directly. What I say is something like, "Hey, what is that the food is so expensive? Like, I'm a big cheese fan. I love cheese. Okay, I love eating cheese for some reason. Don't blame me. I was wired that way. But how is it that my cheese cost me like $8, and about 5 years ago it cost me like six? How is it that the milk was costing that and now it's costing this right now?" And you can explain about the money supply. You can explain that Mark Carney was actually instructing Justin to do during this pandemic into uh, basically doubling the money supply in the market. So now your money is basically worthless at this point, right? You're getting to like towards Venezuela level of worldliness, right? So really boils down. That's how I teach people on the grocery store. It's like, oh my God, was it that my cheese is like $10 or $11 at the grocery store, right? Was that my steak is like 25 instead of 15 like 3 4 years ago, right? That's how you teach people into this idea. And now that's how I teach to some. I raise awareness that way, and then I can tell, hey, if you want to talk to a town hall meeting about independence or XYZ, go to a meeting. It's going to be a meeting at this place. And sometimes I see them in a town
Yep.
hall meeting, which is awesome. Say, hey, it's going to be a town hall meeting in Edmonton at this place and this and that. I hope to see you there. We can make some questions. And then they started to have their lights turn on and say, oh, well, we're being duped by the federal government, right? So that's our level of awareness. Another thing I tend to do as well is to just not give the information directly, because you can't wake people up directly unless they really wanted to, but you have to go into little steps, and that's how you wake people up, because those people are going to bring their friends over to their town hall meetings and stuff, and
Hmm.
that's how collectively, slowly but surely, you can raise awareness. Cheese, yeah, I like cheese, and tomatoes too. Tomatoes and cheese, fun. Three cheese and avocados, so that's gonna. So I just want to double check. Well, thanks for your time. We're just going to be a little over time. Any closing remarks? How do we follow you on social media? I think you're on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's mostly YouTube. That's where I'm at. I make posts and I make videos. I do have an X account, Twitter, whatever you call it. I'm on there. It's at PJ the Belt. If you want to follow me, I'm not super active on there, but I am becoming more and more active bit by bit. But yes, it's the YouTube channel right there at
Yeah.
PJ the Belt.
I'm
Um,
just going to.
Closing for me, man. Again, it's all about Alberta independence, man. I genuinely believe in this. I believe in this cause. That's why it comes out easy for me, because I genuinely believe that Alberta would be better off becoming independent. I also encourage those who believe that Canada should be reformed to support Alberta independence, because in order to reform this country, we need a political earthquake. And what will give and cause that political earthquake is Alberta pursuing its independence. That is how you get
Yeah.
the iron grip that corrupt Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto have on this country to be loosened and to be shattered, broken apart, is to get literally the province that is paying the bills for the most part to just get out.
Yeah, I'm currently just showing the. I'm currently showing your YouTube channel, so give him a follow. I think
I
it's I've
appreciate it.
subscribed already. Yeah, I've subscribed. You see, I'm there. That's good. And I'm gonna look at
Appreciate it,
his
man.
Twitter
Thank you.
channel. Yeah, give him a follow on Twitter too, because I said to people, "Hey, follow me on Twitter too." So I'm gonna go on Twitter there. BG the Belt. So share this tab instead. So that's gonna be Twitter as well too. Oh yeah, you just got the link. Oh,
Yeah,
you
there
got
it is.
144 followers. That's awesome. Okay, so here's a story about
Oh, that's pretty
144. Okay,
cool.
so this is one of the things that happened. I met him in Fort Sask. I never seen PJ in my life. Okay, I met it in Fort Sask because he was live streaming the town hall in Fort Sask, and
Yep.
I tag him on Twitter, the guys from APP, because they follow me. I said, hey, follow. He gives this guy a follow, right? So I think at that time you had like 82 subscribers, 81. Now you got the double,
Yep.
you double that amount, which is awesome. So
Heck
that's
yeah,
the
man.
story about
Heck
the
yeah,
Twitter
man.
account about him. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so I see
You got me
here.
some
Just
people
let
there.
me
I
share.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and I noticed that, and you told me that, hey Max, I take your clips. Like everybody takes my clips now. I see my clip somewhere. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, I realize this. I recognize this
yeah,
this
man.
this
You're
pattern.
out there. You're out there, man. You're out there. You're doing great work, getting these events and recording them, and I comment. That's what I do. My channel is mostly commentary. So I comment on that. I give my opinion, and I've used a bunch of your clips, man, from your YouTube channel. So
Yeah.
whoever wants to stay up to date with Alberta independence, you should subscribe to the Freedom Calendar channel.
Oh, subscribe to TV
He's
as
the guy
well.
that's everywhere. Max is
Yeah.
everywhere.
And one of the things I do for those people who don't necessarily see, what I do is that I record events, but I don't do necessarily a live recording because I don't like it. There's always zero things going wrong with live recording. And if you've done an amazing job as well too, by the way. Um, but I just record the events, and sometimes I provide sound equipment to those meetings. So when I do, that's how
Hmm.
I was able to record good sound as well too. I'm just asking this question. I don't know
Yeah,
because you're
better
on YouTube.
quality that way.
Yeah, you're on YouTube. On YouTube Studio, there is a way of looking at the analytics of your website. What's your analytics? What it looks like from a age demographic or a viewership demographic? Like for example, I'll give you an example. On YouTube, on YouTube Studio, you can see what is the percentage of people who are watching on a mobile device, on a computer, or on a TV screen, smart TV. Do you know, roughly speaking, the percentage of what your viewership looked like on the end? You probably don't know that information, by the way, but just want to know if you have an idea of it.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head because I'm not a super geeky guy when it comes to that kind of stuff. My wife looks more into those things.
Oh,
I know that there's a good mix. There's some people that are definitely, in the younger generation, like
okay.
under 40, but then you also have a good amount of folks that they themselves, I see, because I read the comments. I answer a lot of my comments, man. I like to
Yeah, me too.
engage with my audience in the comments. So I noticed that many of them say, "Hey, I'm older. I've seen this. I've been wanting Alberta to separate since the freaking '80s." So, a good chunk of my audience is also people who have lived longer, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All I know is that on my viewership, like 35 to 40% of the people who watch at least my YouTube channel, they're watching on smart TVs, like actual TV screens, and that's how
Mm,
they watch the content. Um,
that's the way to
yeah,
go, man.
that's the way it goes. Like, oh, really? I'm getting to smart TVs now. That's awesome. And then we got the regular cell phones, and then some computers along the way. But basically, it's like smart TVs, cell phones. That's where the viewership, from my perspective, it looks like. So, and I guess your wife is supporting along the way with this YouTube channel as well, right? She's very supportive of you on that aspect, right?
Yeah, she at the beginning thought, yeah, you probably get 100 subscribers and stuff like that, and I'm
She's
like, oh, look, I got a couple more than that now, and you know, they my audience has helped me prove her wrong a little bit on that.
yeah, that's good. That's good. So always somebody pushing you out. That's awesome. Well, I would like to thanks for your time. Any closing remarks you want to say? Just follow me on Twitter, on YouTube, your Twitter, and also have other plans to go on other platforms as well too. Just asking.
Not at this time. For now, I'm just YouTube and Twitter for the most part. But yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much, Max. I appreciate what you're doing, recording all these events and putting them out there. People should definitely subscribe to Freedom
Yeah.
Calendar.
Yeah, and by the way, just FYI, I will be releasing I have a few videos I'm going to be releasing as well too. Some people were asking me about the videos in Spruce Grove from the APP event. Why is that people haven't why is that those videos haven't been released? They have a technical issue in that specific assignment. So there was a technical issue with the video recording stuff. But what I'm most likely going to do is I'm going to generate the clips out of that, but not going to release the entirety of the live stream. I'm just gonna take the best clips. The Q&A section was amazing, so I'm gonna create clips from the Q&A session, and also I'm gonna release another clips from previous town hall meetings and previous recordings that have not been shown live, but I'm gonna take little clips just to generate some content out of that. Um, Next week I will be interviewing Caddy Fletch. She runs. I'm gonna show that as well too. Maybe if you can see that on X, just give me 1 second here. The She actually runs the Alberta Women Independence Network. I'm gonna try to find on Twitter, so you can follow. You can give her a follow. Alberta, Alberta. Just a second. Okay, gotcha. So this guy here, I'm gonna share my screen a little bit here. So I'm gonna share a screen. There we go. No audio there. So this is what I'm gonna share. I'm gonna be sharing. So I'll be interviewing those ladies over there from the Alberta Women's Independence Network. So what they do is that they so basically what they're trying to do is to educate specifically women on independence. And what I like about her way of doing what about their doing way of doing things is that they want to teach women, because let's face it, we men are different from women, and women, they talk in a different way. So what they're trying to do is to talk about independence specifically to women, which is very interesting. So I'm going to interview her. They got a whole bunch of slides I'm going to show, and I'm going to showcase as well to very interesting topic. That's going to be next Friday. I'm going to put on social media as well the post, and also on the same week they have another. She will be also there as well. I believe in Duffield. I believe. Caddy will be speaking with Jason Levine and Tim Hoven. So the details are in the works right now. But this is something that you're definitely going to check that out, and I'm going to be recording those events as well too. So the content will be there in the next couple of days, couple of weeks. But this is something that's definitely coming for sure. So I would like to thank you guys for being with me today. And thanks for PG for being today. That was awesome, and we'll definitely do it again for sure. And I'd like to thank everybody who are tuning in,
Yeah, man.
and I'll see you next time around with some new content and amazing sound, I guess. Loudspeakers and mixers and 8-channel mixers and that sort of thing. So that's awesome. Well, thanks for your time, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
All right. See y'all in the next one.
Yay! Freedom!